Pat McAfee Show. The narrative on Baker Mayfield has changed all of a sudden. I am a bit of a Baker Mayfield apologist. I don't think he's the best, but I think you could do a lot worse than Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield is a gamer. He's a guy that he wants to win. He's a guy that's going to give you his all. He's a locker room guy for sure. Baker is a guy who seems to be liked wherever he goes. And I think that's because he is that gamer. He is that kind of, swashbuckling attitude. When you're winning, especially, those kind of players galvanize a locker room. Those kind of players can really lift all ships. When you're losing, not so much. But I think, and that's what we said in the preseason or the offseason, I said, I don't think Tampa's going to be that bad because of Baker. Because their roster is good. Like, they have pieces. They're not like Arizona, who just have nothing. And Baker is competitive enough where if he's serviceable, and that means like 20th quarterback in the NFL, somewhere between 20 and 24, if he's serviceable and he's got that moxie, that attitude, that roster is good enough to where they can't be that bad. I think Tampa's probably a 6 to 7-ish win team on the upside. 7's probably the upside. But I'm not surprised at all that Baker, all of a sudden, we're hearing more stories about the locker room and him and all that.
Love Baker Mayfield.
Yes.
The thought of Baker Mayfield.
Mm-hmm.
We enjoy the fact that he is a little bit of spice, a little bit of a history, has some human-like tendencies off the field, and then on the field, he goes to Cleveland, and somehow they won a playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
People forget about how bad Cleveland was before Baker. Baker gets a bad rap because he's almost kind of looked at as a bust. But if you look at Cleveland, what he did in Cleveland, and he certainly was no Joe Burrow. But to take Cleveland, for as bad as that franchise has been, for as long as they've been bad, and all of a sudden, for you to just make them relevant, winning playoff games, almost beating Kansas City in the playoffs. I mean, Baker's stint in Cleveland was a mixed bag, I guess you could say, but he was part of what turned that franchise around.
In Pittsburgh.
They had not won at all. We're talking about a city that wasn't able to open coolers to enjoy beers because they locked them down until the Browns won. This team stinks. Yeah. Stank and stunk. He goes in there, wins a playoff game for him, and then somehow, some way, everybody in that building hates him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
They run him out of town. Goes down to Carolina. People start talking, is Baker really that good? We see him throw 60 times on a Sunday night against the Pittsburgh Steelers whenever he has a torn labrum in his left arm.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of I'm not a doctor, but there was a lot of talk of Baker was just so injured. Shoulder, ankle, ribs. And I mean, I don't know how much that is true, but from the reports I've heard, it sounds like he was really hurt towards the end there.
And the coach is actually on record as saying, his accuracy is affected because he can't move with the thing that he has on. Now, 2 days later, that same coach goes, all right, Beck, here's the deal. Putting Chubb on the sideline, and we're having you throw the ball 60 times. Felt like it was a little bit of a setup, a little bit of a bamboozle to make old Baker look terrible, and he did. So he gets out of town. He goes to Carolina. He goes to Los Angeles. Now Tampa pays him a
little. Now, I believe it was the Rams stop. I think he had a game where he came in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he came in and had a little Baker magic in prime time for the Rams. I think he might have had like a 2-minute drive at the end to win the game or something like that. That's what Baker will do. Baker has got some razzle dazzle. He got some sauce. He's got some moxie about him. I don't know. I mean, he is the Brett Favre mentality in a not Brett Favre body for sure. He is. Doesn't matter the situation, doesn't matter the win-loss record, doesn't matter what team he's on. He's going to go out there and he's going to play. He's a competitor, and I think his teammates like that.
A little bit. Tampa's like, hey, we actually need you. And we start hearing rumblings through training camp that maybe Baker is going to be the guy. Then some videos show up, and he's not great.
Oh, no.
Not great at all. And then that obviously brought out all the Baker haters to be like, look, this guy's getting another opportunity. This guy is going to get so many chances. He's been run out of every place he's ever been. He stinks. Now we just heard a story from a running back after week 1 in Tampa Bay. Yeah. And the story goes like this.
I mean, just understanding what they was doing, kind of, we was paying attention to the whole game of their signal calls. And I just remember, like, Bake came in the locker room, like, I mean, literally at halftime, he said, I got it. Like, we got all these signals. Like we in there talking like as an office. Like he like, I know all these signals. If they do this, they going into cover 2. They do this, they going into cover 3. Every time I alert this, they drop him, and they do this signal, they drop him back to this. And I'm like, wow, like that's amazing. Cause I mean, like I know certain coverages, but I don't know a lot like that. But I would just listen to him. We just listened to him, and we just kind of understood. And then in the run game, we just wanted to keep, regardless of what the average looked like and what it was.
So this is Rachaad White from I believe that's his name. Oh, please be his name. From the Buccaneers. This has been a rumor that's come out that Baker somehow knew the calls for the Vikings. Now, if this is true, I'm not sure why this would come out. Like, this seems like something you would want to keep under wraps and keep exploiting, down the road, who knows. But yeah, I mean, it seems like this is the rumor that they knew what Minnesota was doing. There was also a rumor that 49ers did the same thing to the Steelers, that the defense of the Niners knew what the Steelers were doing the entire time. But that's a different story for a different day. Another part of the Baker thing, he had a play where he ran over a cornerback or took a cornerback out of bounds or something. And he was telling the cornerback to get his weight up. And that's just Baker Mayfield. Like that is not something that you're going to hear a journeyman quarterback doing. That's not something you're going to hear Kyle Trask doing. It's not something you're going to hear Nick Foles doing, or Andy Dalton doing. Baker Mayfield is, in his mind, for better or for worse, in his mind, he's like a starting quarterback, A+, S tier, Heisman winning, number 1 overall draft pick. No matter what's happening, he's that dude. And that like reckless confidence, that reckless belief, when you're the quarterback in the NFL, that is something that is very valuable.
We want to try to be physical as we can and just keep running and never give up on it, So that's a tremendous thing that Coach Canals did. And, it all panned out and worked out together.
I like that he's in a shed doing this conversation. I appreciate the backdrop there. That
Always
was fantastic.
love to see someone in a
Rachaad
shed.
White there, running back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who's been there for a while.
Yep.
Yes. That goes against the narrative, I think, about Baker Mayfield. This dude in the middle of the game is looking over. Yeah, got it. Okay. Normally, correct me if I'm wrong, there is a guy on every sideline that is tasked. Probably that quarterback 3 that you're seeing now.
This is kind of the difference. Like you really never hear Baker being like this analytical, like, kind of seeing the game. He's actually more of like that street ball kind of, he's just going to go out there and let it rip. But this is certainly the opposite.
That is dressing and going to be on the sideline, that's normally the person. Or if there's somebody that has talent in this particular realm of the world in the coaching staff, they're looking at the other signs, trying to get a read, trying to figure it out. Yeah. The fact that Baker's doing it on the field while playing
in real time,
and then getting
pretty
it
impressive.
Right, I would assume, is something that I don't think any of us would have expected out of Baker Mayfield. That isn't that's not what Baker Mayfield's known for. Baker Mayfield, this guy's got moxie, he's got grit, he's an athlete, he's a competitor, he's a fighter, he's this, that. This one is like, this dude's cerebral. He's picking up signs in the middle of the game and then delivering it with confidence at halftime. That means he had full belief in it.
Yeah.
And then
I'll say this too, like Baker, let's for argument's sake, let's say that he was hurt at the end of the Cleveland situation, and that's why he looked bad. And let's say when they went to the playoffs and they were double-digit win team, and they pushed Kansas City to the brink. Let's say that's more about what Baker is. Talk about a get for Tampa Bay. Because at that point, Baker is not the best quarterback in the NFL, but he's right around middle. He's right around the 15th, 16th best, something like that. You can do a whole lot worse than the 15th, 16th, 17th best quarterback that you just kind of scooped up when you are in some trouble. If Baker's healthy and Baker's feeling it, Tampa Bay might have something with Baker Mayfield.
Then they get a win. This is the guy. IQ down there in Tampa.
I mean, that's a huge win. That's huge for him, too, to be able to pick up signs, like you said. As a quarterback, there's so much going on, to see coverage, to signal the receivers, to do this, to see this, and then be able to tell these guys the coverage. That's huge, because there's so many conversions on routes based on coverage.
It was only, I would say, not even a handful of quarterbacks that we worried about knowing our signals. And like Peyton, Peyton would know, so that would be the week.
Well, and the Patriots would know because they had cameras out. Exactly. Remember, they were doing this.
I mean, like they said, Baker doing that in real time during the game, if all this is true, that's way more impressive to me than, well, it's equally as impressive as like Peyton or someone studying up, leading up to the game and just having that all in his mind. Finding that there like identifying that in real time and implementing it, and that is showing some pretty serious IQ, quarterback IQ, football IQ from old Baker.
Hey,
Spies.
Colts, we're known for having.
Whoa!
Go ahead, D-Buck. Go ahead, D-Buck.
Oh yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
But you know what?
For
having what? Yeah, whoa.
Some great spotters on the other sideline. So we were, going into playing against the Colts, we would know. I actually remember the guy's name. It just came to me. I'm
Go
gonna
ahead.
Put it out there. But
No.
legendary coach. Get some great signals. But Tom, Peyton,
We were doing it legally.
A-Rod.
We didn't have an old man with a camera upstairs going,
Yeah.
I'll blink twice if it's a curveball like the Astros are doing.
That's not what it sounds like. Also, Debo left out that little fact that, the Colts were pumping in noise for years.
Nah, RCA guy was just a loud house. Sorry about it.
Hey.
Nope.
Sorry about it.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying.
I would like to know, though, like how difficult that is.
Yeah.
Just as
It's gotta be so
somebody
hard.
who has, that
so
feels like
hard.
that's in my wheelhouse of brain stuff. But you have to see so much. Like you have to see the call, then you have to also know what the coverage is that they're running out of that, what disguise is happening.
Yeah.
So to have the confidence to be able to do it, I think is a big
remember.
deal. And to remember, yeah.
Yeah.
Congrats to Baker. All on the fly. And if you're wrong, you've screwed over everyone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's it's a tough thing because if you believe the messages and you believe it and you're wrong, you're worse off than you were without even trying to guess it all.
Yeah, and I feel like the thought too after seeing the score of this game, you check and the Bucs beat the Vikings. The Vikings must they must have taken.
Interested to see what that young man was going to say there. But look, bottom line, I'm rooting for Baker Mayfield. Okay, I hope he gets a fresh start in Tampa. I hope things go well. I think he did get a raw deal at the end in Cleveland there. Whether he is a sign-stealing god, who knows? There may be more to that story, and we'll probably never know. But I feel like I'm closer to being right than wrong with saying that Tampa's not going to be that bad. Tampa's going to be a middle-of-the-road kind of team because they do have a talented roster. And I believe Baker Mayfield can be serviceable. I think he can be a serviceable quarterback. I don't think there's a huge difference between Baker Mayfield and Mac Jones. I don't think there's a huge difference between – like what's another middle of the road team? Daniel Jones. Like I don't think Baker Mayfield and Daniel Jones are that far off. I think Brian Daboll might rather have Baker Mayfield than Daniel Jones. So I don't think there's a big difference between Baker Mayfield and Deshaun Watson. I think Cleveland would probably be better off if they had Baker versus a $300 million man in Deshaun Watson. But so let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you think the Baker Mayfield show will work out in Tampa? Do you think he just got lucky in week one? It is what it is. They'll come back to the pack. Or is this kind of a resurgence? Is this kind of a second chance at Baker proving that he is a talented quarterback and he can play at a high level in this league? So let me know in the comments below what you think. Thank you for watching the show. I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you in the next video.